I think that this is a very, it's not a very interesting development if you ask me, but as a lawyer from where I sit, I can understand what is happening. It's not enough that you go to court with something that is not so weighty, especially when the offense or the charge is murder, because then you have the maximum sentence to be imposed. And I think that they haven't even done so much, and over the years, they've been going back and forth. And while we talk about this, it brings me very bad memory of where we have come from as a country.
How do you mean?
I feel, and I mean, not to remind the families of Ahmed Suale of their pain and everything, but I made the point yesterday that today we are enjoying a certain refreshing environment when it comes to governance. Today, when I look at when I listen to radio stations and watch TV stations, journalists have the right to express editorial opinions without fear or favor, without having to fear for their lives. And while I say this, I sadly recount some of the cases like Kaka, who had to lose his life. Why? Because he expressed an opinion. And you have so many, in recent past, you have tags storming media houses, or NPP tags storming media houses. You had governments being the enablers. And even the video you played, Kennedy Ejapon himself, who is the front runner, I tip him to win over Dr. Baumia.
You tip him to win over?
Yes. I think that he would be within the NPP, maybe a more credible candidate than Dr.
I'm not too sure.
But we'll come. But we'll
Dr. Jabuti Zato will agree with you.
Yes. I know he's about me, but we'll come to that. And some of the very unguarded statements they made merely because they had access to screens and microphones and practically put the lives of people at risk. Today, the then NPP government went to court without any solid evidence, without conducting the right investigation. And I've been reading a number of things from the spouse, from the families of Ahmed Suale. It's not a good thing. And I spoke to the Attorney General yesterday, and he assured me that he was going to pay attention to the case.
You mean Dr. Dominic Ayeni himself?
Dr. Dominic Ayeni himself. He assured me that he was going to pay attention to the case. He assured me that he was going to make sure that whatever needs to be corrected is corrected. Because what happens is that normally the Attorney General gives a fiat to state prosecutors, police prosecutors, to do some of these things, especially when it's at the district level. And so when it escalated to his desk, he would do something about it. And I encourage the Attorney General that we shouldn't let this case just go like that. We must bring the perpetrators to justice, because we cannot continue to allow the NPP to create the impression that it is okay for journalists to be attacked. We cannot continue to build a society where we think that it is fine for people not to have dissenting opinion. I have been doing a lot of media appearances, and one of the questions one of your sister station asked me was that Dumelevo is a member of your government. He has expressed a contrary opinion. And I made a certain point forcefully that over the past 8 years, we lived in an environment that was practically gagged. And so people are not used to the fact that even within the same party, even within the same team, dissenting opinions should be allowed. And that merely because you dissented does not mean that you disapprove. If you listen to some of the unprintable words that the NPP are using on themselves, have you seen the 16 sins of Dr. Baumia?
16 sins?
16 sins. He only had 16. Brian Champon had 10. Kennedy Japan had 10. But as
you mean their internal
presidential primary? If you look at how...
Well, Beatrice, somebody will say that's internal.
Yes, that's internal. But it's a micro reflection of what they would do when they are given power. Because even amongst themselves, I'm here with my party person, Dr. Samiaye. He's my friend. When we have disagreements internally, we should not be insulting ourselves using unprintable words. Why? Because we have a common opponent to fight. So if we cannot tolerate our views, if we cannot agree to disagree, if we cannot have a very we cannot exercise some restraint in our discussion, we can imagine what we'll do when we have power. These guys, when they had power, you could not, they say who born dog? You could not even express a contrary opinion. You are not even allowed to investigate corruption. In the past NDC government, you saw Manasseh, and I'll say it, and Manasseh disagrees with me in some of the stories he made about a confirmed flying and whatever. Those stories were very baseless, like the Ford expedition and all that. He is on record to have said that even the NDC government asked for protection for him because we recognize how sometimes the base will react. In the NPP, today we are having to discuss Ahmed Suale. What was the crime of Ahmed Suale? What was his offense? That as an undercover journalist, he was part of a team that was uncovering a rot. And somehow, a possible flag bearer of the NPP was not happy with him. Or that some members of the NPP were not happy. And displayed his picture on TV, asking people to do what they think they want to do to him. He lost his life. And I want
he said that he
I want to hear Dr. Zato on this. I really want to hear Dr. Zato on this. Because I want to know what possible defense, when some of these things happen,
Beatrice, the accusation you're making this pointedly is that within the NPP period,
a lot happened.
There was a culture of silence, or perceived culture of silence?
It was not perceived. It was actually a real culture of silence, not just culture of silence. It is as if your freedom of speech is guaranteed, but your freedom after speech was not guaranteed. And so you could speak because you may not know what will be the action or inaction of government, but after you speak, is that not the same government that the likes of Solomon Owusu and the people left because their dissenting opinions were not welcomed? And so if the likes of Alan Shermanton and very big fishes could leave the NPP because they said that the country was headed in the wrong direction, let's do the right thing. Even then, they dealt with them. You saw how Afoko, who is a member of the NPP internally, was dealt with. Afoko was kept in prison. Sometimes, I don't even want to mention the Afoko. One day when I went to a client at BNI and I saw Afoko, I had to bow my head in shame. And today...
Paul Afoko?
Yes.
Or Gregory Afoko?
Gregory Afoko. As for Paul Afoko and Kwabere Japan, what happened to them? At least they should be thankful that they are not behind bars or they don't have acid bath. They've not been bathed in acid. They should be grateful. The NPP consistently have demonstrated that they are not a political party that understand the tenets of democracy. And so it is so sad that today we have to be discussing Ahmed Suale and the fact that the state prosecutors have had to discontinue the case. Because it means that even at the time they were going to court, Godfrey Dami was going to court, he had not put, things well. How were we expecting Godfrey Dami to investigate your second flag bearer, potential, what's his name? Kennedy Japan. How were we expecting them within the same party? How were we expecting them to conduct a very thorough investigation? And so I'm very optimistic, and I want to follow this case and encourage Dr. Ayine that we have to bring justice and we have to bring some closure to the families of Ahmed Suale, not just Ahmed Suale. When we talk about these things, we can link them to electoral violence. 8 people who lost their lives. It was as if under the NPP, it was just not the macroeconomic issues. Our lives, our liberties, and everything. Today, it feels so refreshing. It feels so refreshing waking up and knowing that you can express your opinion, you can come and say anything, and you will walk out and you don't have to look back, you don't have to do anything.
Let just wrap up for me.
It is just something that I want to say that if you look at how things are going, The NDC may not be perfect. The NDC may not claim perfection. But when we come here to discuss some of these things, even the discussion of Ahmed Suale should remind us of how never to allow a party like the NPP to be in charge of the country. There must be a formidable opposition. We welcome that they will put pressure on us. But I think they do not know how to handle power. They do not know how to handle dissenting opinion. And I pray that what happened to Ahmed Suale should never happen to any journalist. And I also want to encourage the media houses. When some of these things happen, please don't let us discuss them only when there are some of these things happening. You must engage in a consistent campaign so that all political parties will sit up and know that there will be repercussions if you attack journalists.
All right.